calculating interest, whether it be simple or compound, we're first going to remind ourselves how to find a percentage using a calculator. The first example I have here says find 4% of 82. The first step is to turn 4% into a decimal, remembering that to turn it into a decimal, you are going to divide by 100. Dividing 4 by 100 so that's the sum we're going to key into the calculator right now. 0.04 multiplied by 82. Change that to a decimal and you can see 4% is 3.28. I have another example here, finding 12% of 650. Same process means I need to turn 12% into a decimal, which will be 0.12. And again, if you're not sure, you're going to divide the percentage by 100. Having arrived at the decimal, you're then going to multiply that by 650. On the calculator once more, 0.12 multiplied by 650. That comes to a total of 78. So that's just a reminder of how we find a percentage using a calculator. We're now going to move on and look at how that particular skill can be extended to find simple interest. Here is a typically worded simple interest question. It says Ewan deposits £600 into a bank account that's paying 5% simple interest per year. And they want us to calculate how much interest would Ewan earn after 3 years. So the first step here is to find what 5% of £600 is. So effectively to find out how much Ewan is earning in interest in 1 year. We do that by changing our 5% to a decimal and multiply it by the £600 that Ewan has invested. Keying that into our calculator, it shows us that Ewan will earn £30 in 1 year. As the question is asking for interest in 3 years, we take the simple interest earned in 1 year and multiply it by 3 for the 3 years. So in total, if Ewan keeps his investment in that bank account for 3 years, he would earn a total of £90 in interest. This amount here represents the interest. Before we look at how to calculate compound interest, what you need to understand is that A, there is a difference between simple and compound interest, and B, if you were to use the same figures in the same calculation, but one where the money is earning simple interest and one where it's earning compound interest, the compound interest will give you a better rate. So, let's just compare using this calculation and the same figures for each. First of all, calculating if I were to invest £4,200 at a rate of 5% per year, simple interest for 4 years, my calculation would first to find the interest for 1 year, 0.05 multiplied by 4,200, shows me that for 1 year I would earn £210. My 4-year earnings are going to be £210 multiplied by the 4 years, £840. The £840 represents my interest earned. So if my question requires to know just the interest, I have my answer. If my question were to ask how much money would be in the bank at the end of 4 years, I'd have my original investment in the bank also. So £4,200 plus the £840 interest will give me a total balance in my bank of £5,040. I've detailed a table below to show exactly what compound interest is. You can see I've listed out each one of the 4 years that my money is going to be in the bank. And in this column here, I'm going to put my first initial investment. My interest at a rate of 5% in the first year would earn me the same £210 as it did in my simple interest example here. But at the end of that first year, I will have my original investment plus my interest earned in my bank account. So in that bank account, I'd have £4,410. And it would be this £4,410 that is in my bank for the second year, which means that I'm earning 5% interest on that whole amount. So my interest in the second year is actually slightly more than my interest in the first year. You can see I would earn £220.50. So again, in my bank account at the end of that second year, I'd have my original investment from the beginning of that year plus my interest, so my total amount in the bank would be £4,630.50. I'm going to do that process again. Into my bank account at the beginning of the third year is the £4,630.50. I'm earning 5% on this whole amount, so I'm earning £231.53, which means at the end of the year, my bank account holds £4,862.03. I've got my investment in my bank for 4 years, so this is the final year on which I am going to earn interest. I have the whole of my end of year 3 amount in the bank. I earn 5% on the whole of that amount. So that's original investment plus all of the interest that's been put back into the account. And that, in that year, would earn me a grand total of £243.10. Adding that amount of interest onto my original investment for the beginning of that year, in total, in my bank, I have £5,105.13. So this demonstrates if I'm earning 5% compound interest compared to 5% simple interest, my investment is worth more in the compound interest bank account. Calculating my compound interest year after year, as I've done above, can get quite tedious and quite complicated depending on how many years I have my investment for. So there is a formula that is worth memorising in order to do the calculation for us. We need to construct a multiplier that we use to multiply our investment by, which will actually work out the interest and the original investment over the whole 4 years. So I'm going to multiply my original investment by this multiplier, which is 1.05 to the power 4. This 1 represents my whole investment. My 0.5 represents my percentage interest. And my power 4 represents the number of years my money is invested. So this whole calculation can be short-circuited by this sum on the calculator, which looks like this. £4,200 multiplied by 1.05 to the power 4. There's my total amount of money in the bank plus the interest payment, and I'll round that to the nearest penny, so 2 decimal places, £5,105.13. Here is a typically worded compound interest question, and I'm going to show you how to answer it by constructing the multiplier in order to calculate 5 years worth of investment and interest. The question says Hugh invests £7,200 for 5 years at a rate of 2.5% compound interest. So to calculate the value of the investment to the nearest penny, I start with my investment, £7,200. My multiplier is going to be 1, which represents the whole of my investment, 0.25, which represents my 2.5% interest, and I'm going to raise that to the power of 5, which represents my 5-year investment. Keying that sum into the calculator gives me £8,146.14, and this amount represents both the initial investment and my interest. The second part of the question is asking me to calculate how much interest there is having been earned on the money that was invested in the bank. Seeing as this amount represents both parts of my investment and my interest, I'm going to start with that total figure. If I subtract from that the initial investment, what will be left is the total interest. And in this instance, it's £946.14. So this figure here is now the interest only.